Just got done editing this interview. You guys are going to love it. Before I do that, though, I want you to know that I'm going to be in the comments for the next 30 minutes or so answering your questions. If there's additional questions you want me to ask the CEO next time I interview them, leave them below. Or if you're just loving the data points I get CEOs to share, click the thumbs up button below. That's your way of telling me you're loving this stuff, and I'll get you more of it. Additionally, again, I'll be in the comments answering any questions you have. All right, for 30 minutes. Enjoy the interview. Hello, everyone. My guest today is Michael McCarthy. He is building a company called InKit, which is a direct mail solution which tracks and automates personalized letters, marketing collateral, statements, policies, and many other items. Michael, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
All right. So just to be clear, you are not directly competing with, call it, a HubSpot or Salesforce in terms of the technology of the CRM. You're just tying in via webhooks or something to do direct mail.
Correct. We are a bolt-on to those types of platforms or products.
Okay. Which of those platforms? I imagine you're obviously integrated with all of them. Which one of them drives you the most customers?
We wouldn't say one or any others drive us more than the other. So
you're not going to pick a baby.
Anybody listed on our ecosystem drives us customers. So we're very friendly to lots of different solutions. And in fact, Nathan, there's actually solutions out there that are point solutions where they might be used by really, really large insurers or really, really large banks. Take for instance like an FIS, where they might drive one or two customers a year, but those one or two customers are massive whales compared to other products in the market.
Yeah.
So,
now explain to me how you price. Is it a SaaS model?
We price as a SaaS model. Pricing is very transparent. So we have a software as a service amount, and that gets you a certain amount of mailings every year. So it's very, 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 very basic vanilla.
So break that. I mean, give me the sweet spot on the SaaS side. What's the kind of the average customer paying you per year to use the tech?
So average customer is, north. We're typically seeing a lot of six-figure size contracts on average.
Okay. So you're not an SMB play.
Not as much as SMB play. SMB is really, really tricky when you go into direct mail, meaning a lot of, your local coffee shop probably doesn't have the budget for direct mail even to begin with. So it's typically more of a mid to enterprise type of customer play. Okay.
And then I cut you off, but you were going to say you also have kind of a per mail delivered fee. I imagine that's in a cents. How many cents?
Yeah. So that can really vary. It can be as low as 30 cents. It can be as high as, let's say you want to send out a 100-page document. That could be $10, just depending on how many pages there are. So we have a SaaS amount, and then we have a per piece amount. Per piece is fixed.
Interesting. So, okay, let me ask you a question. When you add up all your revenue over the past 12 months, what % came from pure SaaS versus the metered portion?
That's something that we don't publicly disclose, but it's definitely we have a lot of SaaS. It's a very healthy mix. So it's similar to like, if not more than like food comps out there publicly traded.
Well, I don't know what those are. I'm just trying to get a sense of, are you more a metered business that's pay as you go, or more a SaaS play? Because they're very different questions I'll ask based off what you're the majority of. Or like, is more than 80% of the business SaaS, would you say?
I'd say less than 80, but definitely more than 50. So it's a hybrid of the two. It's definitely, SaaS is definitely a big component of it. And, of course, as companies ramp up their usage, then you start to see more the metered side.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, obviously your margins are going to be better on the SaaS side, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
SaaS is pretty good margins from what I've heard.
Put all this, Michael, on a timeline for me. When did you launch the company?
So the company was started in 2017. It was started by myself, my best friend, Abram Isla, who's the other co-founder, CTO. Our quick backgrounds are Abram has been coding since he was 4 years old. The two of us grew up together. He was one of Aaron Schwartz's best friends. Aaron was one of the founders at Reddit, co-founders at Reddit. So Abram and Aaron helped build some of the very first open sourced Python frameworks that actually ended up being used to build Reddit. And then right out of high school, my CTO, Abram, was hired onto Lead Pages to be their chief information security officer when he was 18. Myself, I went off to college, played soccer, had a degree in econ, minor in computer science. And my first actually job out of school was sitting next to a direct mail team. I wasn't doing direct mail, but I was sitting next to a team of 70 people doing this, and just saw how archaic and really how the process was all dependent upon flat files and CSV exports, and everything was just like very, very manual and actual like human intensive, right? meaning that if a bank like US Bank wanted to turn around a direct mailer, it would take them sometimes up to 12 to 16 weeks to actually get this out in the mail.
Yep. So you two started this thing in 2017. Now, how much time and money did you spend coding before your first dollar of revenue? Do you remember?
We spent a good 6 months coding. Tough to put a dollar value on it other than our time, but we had a team of myself and 3 other guys that we were all just working on this full time to get things going.
Well, did you have to pay? Did you have to pay those other 3 people anything to work, or was it all equity?
We had a lot of those guys just on hybrid types of just equity agreements. So It was a pretty, I guess, different, traditional setup process from the beginning.
No, it's not. It's not different. Founders have to get creative in the early days to figure out how to get stuff done for free, right? So you use equity, you use other incentives, you do consulting work on the side, whatever you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did a little bit of consulting work on the side, paid people a little bit differently than out of the gate. And then, we really launched our product in, I'd say really February of 2018. So we've really only been around for, even a little less than 2 years.
And how many people are on the team today?
We have a team of 15 plus. Most of them are based in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Primarily.
How many engineers?
We have, I'd say, still over 70% of our business is engineering based. So 10 plus.
Okay, got it.
Very heavy engineering side.
Are you at a stage, I imagine with your contract values, you must have some folks that are carrying a quota, or are you the only sales rep right now?
No, I'm not the only sales rep. And we do have other sales reps carrying quotas. So we have a few other sales guys.
How many total?
Oh man, we have 3 right now.
And are you still figuring that out, or do you feel like you've perfected it? In other words, you know what the quota target is, you know what the ramp time is, you know what the kind of OTE to quota target is in terms of payback period, all that jazz?
I don't think anybody's figured out their OTE or their sales formula. So we're even big companies are constantly tweaking that and changing that. So we have a really good idea of what kinds of customers we want to sell to. We have a really good idea of what those cycles look like. We have a really good idea of who the buying centers are. Now, from a OTE and just earnings side, let's face it, some of these large enterprises, let's say you go out and talk to the Exxon Mobils or the Walmarts or the United Healthcare groups of the world. A lot of those companies take, years to do things. So that's where there's sort of it's more of an art to how you craft these sales.
Yeah. Just to be fair, the companies, once you're north of 20, 30 million bucks in ARR, this is a system. It is a well-oiled machine. There's very little tweaking that happens. So,
totally.
So I guess what I'm asking you is you're at a valuable point where most of my listeners are probably very similar to you. They've hired maybe their first 1 or 2 sales reps, but they're still tweaking. They're still figuring out. And I'm just trying to understand what different inputs you're using for that model to try and get a better guess of what that will look like at scale.
Yeah, so this is the two big inputs we have is one, we have a baseline compensation, and a baseline comp is we actually pay very similar to like what a sales rep would make in Silicon Valley or New York City. So there's a base amount, and then what we do is we have a commission structure based on the SaaS component of our product. So depending upon different functions too, obviously a sales rep is incentivized to sign a 2-year deal over a 1-year deal, or a 5-year deal over a 1-year deal, or to include things like auto renews or other types of favorable provisions. There's a baseline cut that we provide just on getting the contract signed, and then for each additional like added benefit that's pro InKit, such as like an auto renew, then that mechanism slides up.
What new annual revenue do you want to see kind of reps closing in their first 12 months? Is it like $300,000 worth of ARR or $1 million or something else?
We'd like to see, close to 400 at least in the first, couple months. But we do know too that a lot of these take time, right? What do you mean first couple months?
So let's say I just joined you today. I'm your 4th sales rep kind of hire. You're going to say, Nathan, our expectation is over the next 12 months, you're going to close $400,000 in new annual business.
Correct. Right now we have a lot of those types of clients just coming in inbound. So it's it'd be pretty tough not to hit, those types of quotas that we've laid out already.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not about are the leads coming in. I mean, there are plenty of people who have plenty of leads coming in, but someone has to get on the phone with them if they're paying you $100,000 a year and actually get the deal done. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so 3 folks with quota, 10 engineers, 15 people kind of full-time. Now, here's a question. So you guys started the desk. You're sitting next to these people doing direct mail. You're going, this is a massive pain point. Did that customer become your first customer, or how'd you get your first couple customers?
I wish. No, we're actually talking to them right now. So our first, actually, so truth be told, our first couple customers were, when we first got going, we didn't know who we were selling to, Nathan. We frankly were just trying to figure out the market. So we spent the first 3 months literally walking around this college town area, knocking on restaurant doors, wondering if a restaurant or a dry cleaner or a local business would actually buy our tool. And what we very quickly learned was that a lot of these, small mom and pop businesses just, 1, didn't have the budget, or 2, didn't even have the marketing automation tools to make this, medium automated. So we started calling into companies that, you and I have heard of, like Takova's or
who was, do you remember the first logo? Let's tell that actual story. Who was the first customer?
Yeah. So our first customer was a company called Bite Squad.
Okay. And how'd you get them?
And we made just a ton of emails. Like I believe I emailed this lady probably 15 times over the course of a month.
What was her title?
Her title was, she was head of demand gen.
Okay. Is that still kind of who you're selling to, head of demand gens?
It can vary. A lot of times it's CRM users, or it can even just be marketing buyers. So she was a VP of demand gen, and we must have just pestered her to the point of where she was like, "Hey, we have to buy this."
Okay, so you close her. That's your first customer call at 18, 19 months ago, and then what are you at today? Kind of a handful, 4 or 5 customers.
Yeah, so we now have 40 plus customers. Actually, well, a lot more than that. We're close to like that 100 customer range at the moment, and
those are paying customers, and no free.
Yeah, we don't do free from a business side. So we have, 100 plus customers, and customers come from a wide variety of industries. We see a lot of people in insurance. We see a lot of people in financial services, healthcare, and just consumer goods or e-commerce. So there's a pretty good variety. I mean, ultimately for our product in particular, there's, really 2 different use cases. The first use case is you have a marketing use case. So that the marketing use case really resonates with grocers, e-commerce, consumer goods types of brands. And then we also have an operations use case, which is sending out like actual forms or notices or bills or compliance materials. And that's a huge sweet spot with financial service providers, insurers, healthcare companies. So
now, Michael, in terms of scale, right? So 100 customers, you told me earlier, the average kind of contract value is, you call it in the 6 figures, so 100 grand. Now, if I multiply 100 grand times 100, that puts you at more than $1 million a month in revenue. I don't think you're at that scale yet. Is your average customer paying you a little bit less than 100 grand a year?
We have, so I mean, obviously we had a couple customers that were first that,
Well, what's that's why I asked the average ACV, right? Not your top customer, your average, your sweet spot.
Yeah, so our average is about that sweet spot. Yeah.
Which is what?
We're right around that like 100K clip range.
Okay, yeah. But you understand, I don't think that can be true, right? So if you're at the average,
I mean, I understand if you go run the math. I mean, but that's what we're seeing in the last 6 months. So if we were to go back and average everybody out, like, sure, it might be under that threshold. Maybe it's closer to, because we did have a first couple clients.
No, totally. That's why I'm asking though, Michael. I don't want to know what you're landing customers today at, which might be 100 grand. That's great. No, I'm curious to get the historical value. So was it more like $1,000 a month from all your historical accounts?
I mean, we're a lot more than that. I'd say if you were to balance them all, I mean, somewhere between, let's just say 20 to 40, 20 to 50. Okay. I mean, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but that's just a guesstimate.
Well, let me ask you a different question. I mean, when do you think you break $1 million run rate?
We're already, well past that.
Okay. So is the next target 5? I mean, what's the next big goal you want to break?
So our big next milestone is we'd like to get to that 5 area.
And do you think you can do it next year, or is that going to be a stretch?
who knows? I mean, we think we can definitely do it next year. We've got a couple big ones in the pipeline right now that are certainly able to get us there quickly.
Okay.
So
it's unfair to ask this question because multiplying small numbers is easy. So your growth rates go through the roof. But if you're past $1 million in run rate today, where were you exactly a year ago so we can get growth rate?
Oh,
you had only been like 6 months old.
Yeah, I have an idea. That's just not something we disclose. That's for us. That's like just private information. It's kind of like on a need to know basis for those types of numbers. So,
well, give me if you want to stay vague, that's fine. I'm just trying to understand. Are you talking like 100% year over year growth or like 1,000% year over year growth? Give me a range.
We've done between 100 and 1,000. I mean, we're definitely more than tripling.
Okay.
From just a growth rate. So, yeah.
That's good. Okay, good. So 300% kind of year over year growth. You're past $1 million run rate today, and you feel like in the next, call it 4 to 8 quarters, you can break a $5 million run rate based on your model of combined metered plus SaaS revenue.
Sure, that's fair.
Bootstrapped.
Sure. We've taken in a little bit of taken in some outside funding, so it's
Michael. Why take the dilution? It sounds like you were basically making money from day one.
We were making money from day one, so we took money just early on, very, very, very nominal amounts. And that's also just not disclosed for obvious reasons. But
wait, Michael,
but yeah,
sorry, that's not an obvious. Hold on, sorry. There are no obvious reasons for that. Why would you be coy about that? That just, my listeners are going to listen and go, this guy's hiding something. Why would you be coy about that strategically? There's no reason to be coy about it.
I think there's a lot of reasons to be coy about it strategically.
But I can look it up. We can look into SEC filings and quickly look it up.
Well, not all the time. No, not necessarily. A lot of things can come in as secondaries or safes or all sorts of other things that don't get disclosed. So
no, safes get safes get convertible notes, safes. These things do get disclosed
once they convert. Sure, but not at the time. And if that's so basically there's a lot of we've taken in some money. Not a ton, but definitely like very, very well-known investors who have backed us. So.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, it's more impressive to me someone that bootstraps, right, versus that's raised totally. A ton. So I'm trying to get a sense. If you raised $10 million, your story is less interesting to me, right?
We have not raised $10 million. Can you
just make this statement? You've definitely raised less than X amount.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely raised less than $1 million.
Okay, perfect. So that's good. That helps give context.
Yeah.
Any plans to raise in the next 12 months, or you think you can get pretty far on that money?
I mean, always open to the right offers is sort of the answer there. So depends on how the market is, right? If we don't need to, then we won't. If we need to, then we might.
Were you burning massive amounts of capital right now? And do you need to go out and raise, or are you cash flow positive?
We're neutral. We're pretty much neutral as far as things from how we're sitting at the moment. Okay. So
your lips were about to say B as in burning, and then you quickly went back to neutral after your brain kicked in. Are you burning or are you neutral?
We are neutral. We do not have massive amounts of burn going on every month, Nathan.
But what does massive mean? That's relative.
Massive to me would be, I know of one company where they were burning $100,000, actually $1 million. No, it's $100,000 a day. So we're not doing that type of a rate.
Okay, so. But Michael, that comment makes if that company is $1 billion company, burning $100 grand, burning $100 grand a day makes a lot of sense.
Okay, well, fair point, but I mean, out of the gate as a seed stage company, no. So
yeah,
they're no longer in business either. So.
Got it. So, okay. So basically cash flow break even, if you do go out and raise, obviously you're open to the right deal comes along. You're in a hotel room right now. Do you have investor meetings later today?
We do not. No. I do have a sweater on though, because I have a lot of meetings with insurers and financial service providers.
I am not envious of you. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
Last couple of questions before we wrap up. Churn. When you look at your past 12 months gross revenue churn, what's it at?
No churn. We have negative churn. So
you've had no, but I asked gross. You can't have negative gross churn.
We've had no churn. So our customers are buying more from us than they were.
So you've had of your 100 customers that were paying you, call it a year ago, none of them have either sent less mail, so their metered kind of thing, their revenue has gone down, or have downgraded based off a feature based on the SaaS side. No downgrade revenue.
None.
Okay. And what's expansion look like? Are we talking 20% kind of customers expansion year over year?
very, very high expansion. So
Well, what's high?
We're north of 50% on expansion side.
Okay, and that's not on like your best case scenario. That's on the full cohort from a year ago. It's that you've expanded them 50%. That's good. Obviously, dealing with a small amount of customers, but 150% net revenue retention is pretty good this early on. So nice work there.
We're expanding a lot on the expansion side.
Yeah.
So
now, do you have a model around acquisition? So to get a new $30,000 a year account, will you spend $30,000 to get them?
We're still working out our CAC from a CAC side, but we're seeing like very, very healthy CAC types of CAC to like LTV sorts of metrics. So
well,
just
of course,
ratios,
because
right?
you could argue your LTV is infinite if you have 0% churn. That would be a big mistake for you to make.
What we're saying is like when you look at the contract ACV to CAC, our ACV to CAC is healthy.
Is what?
I mean, from what we've heard, typically like metrics are 3-to-1 is like good. We're way more than 3-to-1.
Okay, so if your annual contract contract value is more than 3x your CAC, right? So what I'm hearing you say is if you're going to land a $30,000 account, you're saying you're spending way less than $10,000 to get that account currently.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
Favorite business book. Really like Phil Knight's Shoe Dog book.
Number 2, is there?
You know what? Actually, How to Be a Capitalist Without Any Capital. That's my favorite.
I'm not going to go easy on you just because you use my book. All right, number 2.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Is there a what?
CEO you're following or studying?
I follow actually a guy named Mitch Kupit a lot from a CEO side. He used to be the former CEO at Code 42, which is a backup company.
Yep.
So
number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building the company?
Favorite online tool for building a company? Asana, hands down.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep you get every night?
5.
Oh, that's brutal. Okay, and what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
I have a girlfriend. Yes.
Okay, not married. So, any kid? No kids?
No kids.
And how old are you?
I am 26.
26. So. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Oh, man. I think is this the 6th question or 7th question?
No, six years ago. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Oh man. Let's say it's a tough question. I'd say it's a lot harder to build a SaaS company than I probably thought it was when I was 20. So, you see a lot of stuff going on when you're 20. You're like, oh, this must be really easy. But I definitely think like with a lot of bootstrapped and early stage SaaS businesses, the first 2 years are the most important 2 years, just getting stuff up and running. And we've gotten through those 2 years really well. So it's exciting now for year 3, year 4, et cetera. So.
Guys, there you have it. InKit helping 100 paid customers connect their direct mail campaigns with their CRM. Doing more than $1 million in revenue to date, hoping to break $5 million in the next, call it, year or so as they look to scale. They've done this all by raising less than $1 million. Team of 15 people, 10 engineers, 3 reps. No gross revenue churn right now, and about 50% expansion. So 150% net revenue retention. Again, pretty healthy. Spending less than 1/3 of their annual contract values to get the customers. That's worst case scenario right now as they look to figure out how to scale that model. Michael, thanks for taking us to the top.
Cool. Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.
These CEOs rarely give these kinds of interviews. I hit them hard, I get the data, and I want to do it more. So if you want to get more of this stuff, make sure you subscribe up here. And then additionally, go check out one of my other CEO interviews right now.